To begin in Europe, where Ukrainian forces have reportedly destroyed a third Russian bridge as it continues its incursion into the Kursk region. This attack was confirmed by Russia's investigative committee earlier today. The bridge, which is located near the village of Kazish, crosses a strategically important river known simply as Sim over the Kursk region. Ukraine's Air Force had earlier published 2 videos showing airstrikes on 2 other bridges across the river Sim. However, Ukraine has not commented on the latest claims by Russia. Kyiv forces are nearly 2 weeks into their biggest attack on Russian territory since Moscow launched its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country's goal is to create a buffer zone on Russian territory. He made the disclosure in his usual nightly address. Zelensky praised his troops for taking part in the offensive in Kursk, indicating they have achieved what he called much-needed results in destroying Russian equipment. The Ukrainian president also emphasized the need for his forces to inflict losses on the Russian army as it helps prevent the war from expanding.
Fellow Ukrainians, we achieved good and much-needed results in destroying Russian equipment near Toretsk. All this is more than just defense for Ukraine. It is now our primary task in defensive operations overall, to destroy as much Russian war potential as possible and conduct maximum counter-offensive actions. This includes creating a buffer zone on the aggressor's territory, our operation in the Kursk region.
Потенціалу війни і проводити максимум контрударної роботи.
Amid all that's been happening, Moscow has hinted it is not ready to hold peace talks with Ukraine. This was relayed by Yuri Yushakov, presidential aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin. He says Russia is not withdrawing its earlier peace proposals, but Kyiv's incursion into Kursk means holding peace talks at the moment would be inappropriate. Back in June, President Putin laid out his terms for a ceasefire, saying Ukraine would need to withdraw troops from Ukrainian territories that Russia claims to have annexed. The proposal was rejected by Ukraine and widely condemned by European leaders during a peace summit in Geneva, a summit Russia was not invited to. However, Ukraine has maintained a stance. It will not negotiate with Moscow until its forces leave all Ukrainian territory, including Crimea, which was annexed in 2014. Away from the front line now, the Russian president is currently on a 2-day state visit to Azerbaijan, where he's been holding extensive talks with President Ilham Aliyev regarding bilateral relations. According to his Azerbaijan counterpart, the relations between Russia and Azerbaijan are at a very high level of allied interaction. President Aliyev was in Russia in April for a state visit, where he had also held extensive talks with the Russian president. Both said numerous issues were discussed. Now, earlier today, they held a press conference with the Azerbaijan president, saying stability, security of South Caucasus depends largely on Russia's cooperation with Azerbaijan, but they're also adopting a number of joint documents following their talks. The VOA's Anna Chernikova is in Kyiv for us. Anna, great to see you. The Ukrainian forces' incursion into Russia appears to be succeeding. A third bridge now reportedly destroyed as Ukrainian forces move further into Kursk. How important is it for Ukraine that these infrastructure is destroyed, and how much of an impact would it have on the war with Russia?
Good evening. Well, according to Ukrainian officials and Ukrainian military, these 3 bridges are the only sources of supply for that area in the Kursk region where Ukrainian forces are currently located. And at least according to preliminary data, which is available from open sources and from the reports from Ukrainian officials and from also reports from Russian officials, we can see that this is the area that Ukrainian forces are either control completely or where they are proceeding forward. And these bridges are extremely important. I mean, the destruction of those bridges for Ukrainian forces, because this is the destruction of the supply chains for Russians. And this is how it looks, because when the first bridge was destroyed, this was the main explanation, and then the second and the third will actually prove that Ukrainian forces just look at this as a supply chain. And I think that some military representatives in the Ukrainian armed forces were mentioning that this is actually the case. And also, of course, this adds additional control for Ukrainian forces, because they're cutting the Russian forces away from that area, and demonstrating that actually the buffer zone that was announced by President Zelensky is on the way.
Right, and Russia was the one that confirmed the destruction of this bridge. Why isn't that been reported by the Ukrainian army?
Well, for Ukrainian army, this particular operation is extremely sensitive, because previous operations that were either under the preparation or almost or even in action, like the last year's counteroffensive, which was unsuccessful. All these operations, according again to sources and according to Ukrainian military, the plans for these operations were leaked. And first, if we're talking about counteroffensive, this was leaked into Russia, and Russia was ready for that and was aware of that. Some other operations were leaked either to both Russia and Western countries, and basically Ukraine was not able to create this unexpected move. So, according again to Ukrainian military, this is done so such silence and such and no commenting on even things which already happened is something that Ukrainian forces are trying to do in order to keep the effect of an unexpected effect on. And because basically confirming certain things would allow Russian forces to plan forward and to understand what's really happening. And Ukrainian forces are trying to keep everything secret as long as possible in order to get this advantage, the time advantage. And at least, again, this is how experts here in Ukraine explain this, and this is also what Ukrainian forces are saying, that the most important for Ukrainian forces at this point is informational silence, so-called, and this is why no much commenting is available from the Ukrainian officials.
That's understood. I mean, the reason, as you rightly pointed out, why this operation has succeeded so far is because of the stealth operation that the Ukrainian forces are carrying out in Russia. Now, at this point, Anna, Russia has cleared the table of all talks about a peace deal. Is that a concerning development for Ukraine?
Look, actually, Ukraine never considered Russia's so-called readiness for talks serious, because all previous statements by the Russian officials, President Putin mainly, were proving that Russia is only ready to negotiate on its own terms. And those terms are not acceptable for Ukraine, because Russian terms for Ukraine, as it was seen not only actually by Ukrainian officials, but also by many foreign officials and experts, were kind of, capitulation scheme. So negotiations that Russia proposed was not something that Ukraine would consider negotiations. It would just be the acceptance of Russian desires and Russian and what Russia actually wants from the very beginning of the offensive, of the aggression. So basically, Ukraine never considered any even officially announced readiness of Russia for negotiations as actual readiness for negotiations, because the terms are not acceptable for Ukraine. And Ukrainian officials, as well as Ukrainian society, do not see the Kursk operation as something that canceled the plans of negotiations, and something that Ukrainians should be sad about, that because of that negotiations won't happen anymore. Other way, actually, Ukrainian society and military and officials believe that Kursk operation would actually create possibility and create background, the foundation for actually real negotiations. And this is also one of the goals, at least according to experts and according to how Ukrainian military is seeing that, and the society.
And this would be the third summer in this war for many Ukrainians. What is the general feeling across the country about not having a normal summer like other European neighbors?
I should say that at one point Ukrainians kind of used to this, but of course you cannot really get used to war and to the fact that you cannot, one cannot plan ahead, one cannot have, understanding of what's gonna be the future. But also, what's I think the most important is that Ukrainians took this situation as it is, and Ukrainians want this war to actually end in a way that such summers would not repeat. So even if 2 or 3 more summers are meant to be like this under the war, Ukrainians would actually prefer to go through it as this journey has already started 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, and go through it once again, but knowing that at the end this would be, the last summer or couple of summers like that. So, August is a very important month for Ukrainians. The Independence Day is coming, and some other also governmental holidays. And this is something that probably most of Ukrainians would tell you that they would continue to fight, and they would continue to go through such tough summer once again, knowing that next in couple of years, or maybe even next year, the summer would be back to normal. So the time will show.
Yeah, a lot of hope there. I wanted you to respond to news about the US, the UK, and even Germany giving Ukrainian forces permission to use their weapons in the incursion into Russia.
For sure, such negotiations are going on for a long time, and this is what President Zelensky said. Time to time, he's saying that he is discussing this with partners, and also a lot of experts actually also believe that Ukrainian success in Kursk region, in this Kursk in this Kursk operation, would actually create again additional effect for partners to allow to use weapons provided by the allies on the territory of Russia, and what's the most important for Ukraine, long-range weapons. There is no confirmation at this point about anything except of Great Britain. Great Britain confirmed that they allow to use everything they give to Ukraine except of long-range missiles. But this is also under negotiation, and actually it looks like that Great Britain is ready to give this permission, but also it needs its partners to give permission as well. So this is what Ukraine is discussing at this point and negotiating. But again, we can see that everyone is trying not to make it public or make it, too public. But we can see that after big supply from different countries arrived to Ukraine, Kursk operation began. And definitely, it looks like that Ukraine has enough equipment at least to reach certain goals. As we can see, certain goals been achieved, and no one knows the final goal and long-term goal in the Kursk region. But still, it looks like that allies would definitely take their decisions according to Ukrainian forces' success or not success in the Kursk region.
Anna, thanks again for speaking with us, and do stay safe.
Thank you.